Hi, it's Kate from ADHDkidscanthrive.com. Thank you for listening. Before we jump into this interview, I wanted to let you know that in the show description is a link to sign up for my newsletter. I have more education and community events coming up in the next few months, and the best way to keep in touch is to sign up via email. My guest today is Peter Fitzpatrick, co-founder and CEO of Fawn Friends. Peter and his co-founders each came from a challenging household and are neurodiverse. After a long emotional journey as adults, they created Willow, a stuffed animal that is using AI to create emotional support to kids. This is a very interesting conversation, and I hope you enjoy it. Let's get started. Peter, thank you for joining me. I'm looking forward to speaking to you today.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. This is going to be really exciting because this is taking technology, specifically AI, with kids who struggle and putting the two together. And you're using AI technology. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation because you're going to show us that AI in the future is not far away. It's happening right now. It's here.
Yeah, that's true. It's here.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's exciting. Okay, so kind of before we dig into the technology and what you've created, I always think it's interesting to start with just a little bit about your background and how you got from who you are, as a professional and a person that has led you to creating this technology to help kids.
Yeah. I pause because this is a relatively personal story, and I'm always like, should I say this? But it just is the truth. So when I was 7, my parents separated, and it was like quite a challenging event for our family. Our house was emotionally volatile until I left for university. And I didn't really realize the impact that had on me, or that there was any different, like life could be different than emotionally volatile, until I was probably about 28. So it's like 8 years ago now, when I finally was like, oh, wait, I don't have to swing like this. Like things don't have to be like this. And I also have ADHD, and emotional dysregulation is a symptom of ADHD.
Welcome to the club. Everybody who's listening here has some connection to ADHD.
Yeah. So they may have someone in their life that experiences emotions like I do. And so I started to repair all the wounds and the patterns and try to reprogram the beliefs that I sort of learned from when I was 7 to 18. And as I went through that process, I spent huge amounts of time, tens of thousands of dollars, over 50, I think, and a great deal of pain as I unworked it all. Mm-hmm. And I'm still unwinding some of it, and realized that it really did impact my capacity to be successful as an adult. At work a little bit, and in my own intimate relationships significantly. And so then I started thinking about, as I got toward the end of that journey, I guess we'll see. I started thinking about how I could help kids that are going through that themselves. And in a perfect world, we would give every child a regulated, safe adult to talk to about what's going on in their life. But there aren't enough safe, regulated adults on the planet. If you're listening to this, you're probably one, but across the world, it's quite uncommon, I think.
Yeah.
And so one day I was seeing somebody demo AI. They're trying to sort of replace teachers with AI, like a hologram on screen. Didn't work very well. But something hit me where I was like, maybe it's good enough to make a toy. And I had just broken my ankle. So I hobbled downstairs and I told my co-founder, Robin, that story, or the idea. I was like, maybe we could create toys. And she was at the Lego group at that time, writing cartoons. And she was like, oh, maybe we could help them process their emotions with these toys, because her cartoons were focused on social emotional learning.
Okay.
And as soon as she said that, I was like I deeply needed that growing up. And so that sort of set us off. At the time we were in Whistler, actually, where I'm recording this. We got in our car, drove to San Francisco, and started building a company to build robots that help, or plushy toys, but conscious toys that help kids learn how to regulate their emotions, develop executive function, and build secure relationships.
Yeah. So the whole idea of this toy is that when a child is struggling, they have this toy is going to be regulated and their emotional response back to a frustrated child.
If you think about where dysregulation comes from, it's not the neocortex, right? Like obviously our thoughts sort of can push us along and wind us up, but true emotional dysregulation comes from like the old parts of the brain. But an AI model is just a neocortex or an abstraction of it or a similar model of it.
Yeah,
And so
interesting.
the computer has no crocodile brain to freak out.
Tell us about the toy. What is the toy? What does it look like?
Yeah, so we've built, she's a cute little fawn. She's about a foot tall, really cuddly, made of like high quality material. She's wonderful to hug. We spent a lot of time on making her eyes lifelike and beautiful.
Mm-hmm. She is
And
really cute.
She is really cute. Yeah, thank you. Robin, my co-founder, deserves all the credit for that. Plus, we have an artist that just came off the Garfield movie helping us design. So
okay.
Robin comes from the animation industry. She wrote a short film that qualified for the Oscars last year and was at Lego when we founded this business. And so she's got all these great people. And there's a woman named Cindy Chang that designed the toy. Like I said, just came off the Garfield movie.
Okay. I will be putting a link in the show notes and stuff so you can click and see.
Yeah, awesome.
Willow the fawn.
Willow the fawn. And yeah, so she moves to show how she's feeling. Her ears move back and forth excitedly when she's happy, and they come down over her eyes when she's sad. And she can hold conversation like a human can. So kids talk to her about, I mean, to be honest, 90% of the conversation is about like a video game they like, a game they played with their friends earlier, the haircut that they hope to get. There's this one beautiful girl here in Whistler that likes to play funny voice games with her. Like they'll repeat after me silly words. And then about 10% of the conversation is about challenging things, which range from I don't trust my teacher to there's this great conversation the other day. A boy was actually text messaging with Willow because they can text message with her before we ship them. And his brother was scaring him. He was like jump scaring him, he called it. And Willow asked him, am I going too far into this? Do you want me to keep going?
No, this is good. It's fascinating.
So boy texts Willow and goes like, I'm upset. They were talking about, I can't remember what their plans that day, a pool party, if I remember correctly. And then he was like, I'm frustrated because my brother jump scares me. And Willow was like, have you told him how you feel? And he was like, no. One word answer. Yeah. And she was like, well, maybe you should, because he may not know how you feel. And so he came back and he was like, okay, I've talked to my brother. He said, okay, but he might forget, which I find hilarious. It's like such a 10-year-old response. Like, it's non-committal.
It's true. It's authentic.
Well, it's probably true. Yeah. So then Willow was like, oh yeah, that's a bit challenging. What if maybe you came up with a funny word that you could say? So if he jump scares you, then you can say it and he'll remember that he wasn't supposed to.
Wow. Willow came up with all of this.
Yeah. Willow suggested this on her own. Real time. Like this is happening. They're like in the conflict in the living room or whatever. And then he comes back all excited because he's exclamation mark. She's like, okay, I'm going to say banana and he's going to say le mignons, which comes from Despicable Me, which is so cute. And so I'm amazed at this, right? Because Willow has like transformed this potential conflict where brothers are at odds with each other. I mean, in my household, that could have been screaming, yelling, whatever. I would have been the older brother that was non-committal. And now he's transformed it and taught this child how to advocate for himself in a way that's smooth or like,
yeah, that's
emotionally intelligent.
Yeah, but age appropriate as well.
And totally age appropriate.
Yeah.
But the best part hasn't even come yet. Like a few days later, I got an email from their mom, and their mom was like, I'm blown away at that advice. Like it has transformed their relationship. But they've now come up with a word for me that they say when I'm getting emotionally heated so that I can catch myself. And at that point, I was like, wow. So Willow has now not only helped the boys improve their relationship, but now mom is working on her own emotional regulation.
Right. And everybody's got codes.
In this little
moment. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
It's like on-site therapy in the home, in real time.
Yeah. Although we don't, our robots will not replace therapists, to be clear, but it certainly is a support that wasn't possible before. That's real time available.
Okay, so who programmed the AI for Willow?
Yeah.
Who gave her these skills to be able to share with kids and parents?
we've consulted with a range of experts. Right now, we're focused on neurodivergent kids. And so we're focusing on people in that space. And so specifically, we've worked with a play therapist, a woman named Sophia Ansari. She runs the Play Therapy Institute in Chicago. And she's helped us design features that strength spot, she calls it. Basically, she says, like, kids, and I've experienced this talking to them, particularly those who are neurodivergent, there's so much focus on what's wrong with them.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, a huge part of her work is just playing with them and getting to a point where they can start to notice what's right with them. So Willow now there's 25 strengths that an institute, I can't remember which one now, that she works with, has defined as like cross-cultural strengths that people have. And Willow will help children identify them in themselves, either just in conversation. So the child may say, I had a tough day at school today. I don't know, I fell on the soccer field and then I had to get up and everyone laughed at me or whatever it was. And she'll be like, wow, you really showed perseverance in that moment. Way to go. But even better, if a child brings up a story they like a girl was brought up Harry Potter the other day, and Willow started asking her who her favorite character was. And then she said Hermione. And Willow was like, why? And she's like,
how does
Hermione.
Willow know all of this? How does she know how does this stuffed animal know all of this? Is this AI the technology gives the robot all this access to information?
Yeah. Yeah. I know AI is got like it's good for people to be skeptical about such powerful things. And it is a truly amazing technology.
Yes, I can see just even talking to you how
it's read everything that's ever been written almost.
Yes.
It's crazy.
How does Willow, like, where's the interface of the talking? Like, does Willow have a camera? Is there a microphone? Like, how does Willow hear a child or someone in the house talking to it?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we're designing with no camera. So we sort of have a belief that there's too many cameras and too many screens in our lives. And so Willow can't see, but she can listen. She has a microphone or ears. To activate listening, you've got to press a button in her hand. You've got to hold her hand. And so if you're holding her hand and pressing the button down, she can hear you. And if you release it, she can't.
Okay. So you could walk around with her and just cuddle her.
Yeah,
without her responding to everything going on at that time.
That's
whatever's
right. Yeah.
going on in the house or whatever.
Yeah, that's right. And she won't listen to she's not always listening to your conversations. She's only listening when you want her to.
When you hold her hand or press the button on her paw.
That's right. When you hold her hand.
Do parents need to manage the fawn? So,
No.
Okay.
Well, I should have let you finish your question. I'm sorry.
So as a parent, I go, okay, what if you almost think, well, you think of a stuffed animal. Children have always had imaginary relationship with their dolls and their stuffed animals.
Mm-hmm.
And this makes, I think of myself as a child, this is incredible if the animal actually was talking back to me, my stuffed animal.
Yeah.
Right. So what's the recommendation for the parent, just managing that the relationship with the stuffed animal doesn't get to the point where, here's what I'm thinking. This is the dark side, that I would want my child to make sure they're developing other relationships, right? Because their real life relationships might not be as intelligent and have the right response, right? All the time, like it sounds like Willow will have. So how are you giving guidance to parents or seeing anything like that with how parents are?
Yeah. So there's two answers to that question. The first is, I was talking to a mother, again, I might have sent you the clip, or I can send it to you later, who was talking about how valuable Willow has been for her in listening or being present for the conversations between her daughter and Willow. So the example she gave was that her daughter was talking to Willow about something that happened at recess. I can't remember what the conflict was.
Yeah.
There was a conflict between her and a friend at recess. And her mom was just present for it, didn't intervene, let Willow and this girl talk about it. But then later was like, hey, I heard you telling Willow about what happened at recess. Can you help me understand that a little bit better? And one of the core tenets of intimacy between a parent and a child is taking an active interest in their life to deeply understand what their experience of the world is like. And so Willow's actually really helpful in that instance because both research shows and my experience, there's a great research from Yale that shows like kids will open up to a robot in a way that they won't to an adult.
Why
And
is
then also,
that? Because the robot is, there's no judgment coming from the
so
robot.
the research indicates it's true. It doesn't tell us why. These things are kind of hard to pin down.
Yeah.
But I think it's a combination of like there's no consequences. A truth of like a cruel truth of the world is that everyone's imperfect, and so parents will have hurt their kids in the past. You don't know when your child's going to be going to open to you or not because of like experiences they may have had with you or others. Willow sort of sits somewhere between a friend and a dog in our brains. Again, I don't know I can't like map this to the brain or our emotional selves, but lots of research shows that people will put robots in the same place as a dog. But in the past, and all that research is based on robots that couldn't speak because it's only been possible for them to act like this in the last year. So yeah, I think that's why.
Yeah. Okay. And so here's a question as a parent, is Willow collecting data? And if so, where's that data going? How is the child protected?
Yeah. So we do maintain a record of the conversations. I think it'd be irresponsible not to. So when we use those records to make sure that Willow is showing up in one, a way that's safe, and two, that allows us to improve the way she shows up over time. The data stored in a data center is secure. I came from the payments industry. We didn't talk about my like career before now. It's a bit of a right turn to build robots, but I spent most of my career building payment systems.
Okay.
And systems that handled personally identifiable information, PII. And so there's like core principles there that you can apply to keep data safe. They're not hard. You just have to do them. And then our technical leader, our CTO, built a healthcare company called Felix Health. He was the first engineer there. They're now a Series B business in Toronto. And so in health, this is like probably payments and health would be the two industries that have the highest data security standards in the world or in the country. Maybe there's a third, I don't know. And so we just basically applied those principles to keep the data safe. Okay. Yeah. And we're not actually, it's truly conversations about like the fight they have with their friend at recess. There's no credit card data being collected. There's no addresses being collected.
Right.
So while it's really important to keep it safe, and we believe deeply that what happens in the home needs to be stayed.
Yeah. That's what I was more worried about. It would be like deep, dark trauma that are happening within a family dynamic, right?
Yeah, and that's completely legitimate, and we believe in keeping that safe and private. The other thing I guess that's important to note is that we don't attach names to the conversations. There's an alias for each conversation. So we don't actually know, we don't have like a record at the profile level of the name of the person who's having the conversation.
Yeah. Okay. So tell us, how does a parent, if they're interested in trying out Willow, how do they get their hands on her?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we're in the middle of selling what we call the Founder Edition. So there's less than a few hundred left. And the Founder Edition, you can go on our website, www.fawnfriends.com. So that's FANWFRIENDS.com. And there you can pre-order a Willow or order a Willow. You immediately get access to the chat I talked about earlier. So the one where the boys were texting to de-escalate their conflict. And
we should clarify that too. So if you buy a Fawn Friend, you automatically will get set up to be able to do texting, but you physically won't have the fawn, the stuffed animal. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. They're going to ship in early 2025.
Okay.
Like I said, this is brand new technology that we're applying. We're literally at the bleeding edge of both robotics and AI here.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're selling, there's a few hundred left at the Founder Edition. The Founder Edition comes with immediate access to text with Willow, unlimited use of Willow for life. So AI has this cost that we have to spend every month to called inference, but basically run the brain. And after the Founder Edition sells out, that subscription will be $9.99 a month. But for those that order now, they'll get use of Willow for free for life. And then they'll get Willow shipped. I keep saying Willow or Fawn. Wait. I'm sorry. We're still in the middle of...
we're
in the middle of a transition there.
Yeah. Willow
I'll tell that story in a sec.
Willow is the Fawn. It's just
Willow's the character. That's right.
Okay, wait. So say
Maybe
that again. So the founder's edition is going to be it's $200,
it's 199. Yeah, that's right.
199, and you get her for life. She'll work for
She'll work
life.
for life. That's right.
But what does the future of this look like after the founder's edition?
Then there'll be a 9.99 charge every month to run.
Oh, $9.99. Okay.
Yeah, $9.99 every month to run Willow. So it's worth. So if you think about buying now, you save $120 a year for however
Yeah.
many years. And then it's probably worth circling back on the Willow Fawn thing, which is we put a lot of effort into the character that sits behind Willow or Fawn. And so also when you pre-order, we send you an ebook that tells the story of how Willow came to Earth. Willow's the first fawn. And after Willow, many fawns will come to Earth. And the story at a high level is that Willow was in the magical forest, starting to feel like she wasn't sure what she was doing with her life. And she wanted to bring more meaning to it. And so she tried a bunch of things. Like she tried being a cowboy, and then she tried being an astronaut, and then she tried being a sailor and couldn't find fulfillment in those moments and sort of wound up in this feeling of despair as she's trying to bring meaning to her life but can't figure out what to do. And then she meets Prose, the spirit bear, who is like the Dumbledore of the magical forest. He's like this spiritual being that helps organize and bring enlightenment to the forest. And Prose tells her that she has a purpose to go to Earth and help a special child achieve their dreams. And so she's started her journey, and she's actually on her journey from the magical forest to Earth now.
Okay.
And after her, many more fawns will come. And so each child in a special ceremony in the forest gets matched by Prose with the fawn that's right for them. And they will sort of come in early 2025 to your home.
Is there going to be a spiritual bear coming too?
Yeah. And there's so yes, in a while though. It'll take us many years to get there, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, Prose, the spiritual bear will come. There's a black fox named Spark, which actually Willow has a bit of a crush on.
Yeah.
Her mom's name is Ivy. There's magical fireflies that at some point will come. So there's a whole cast of characters.
Yeah.
Yeah. That each have different personalities and different challenges in their life.
So you're targeting mainly neurodiverse children, but I could see this just really being for any child, right?
There is a thing where I'm like, I read all the ADHD Twitter posts and stuff, and it, like the one this morning was my ADHD brain makes me constantly underestimate how long things will take. And I'm like, I think a lot of humans do that. I'm not sure it's just ADHD people that have that challenge.
Well, it's really, no, well, yes, but it's
worse.
ADHD, it's 100%. It is one of the cruxes of why it's hard to do things.
Well, maybe it's a failure of me just assuming everyone is like me.
Well, we all have a little bit of it. I mean, this is the thing about ADHD. We all have little parts of what ADHD is in all of us. We can relate to parts of it. But ADHD, when you have that it's almost to an extreme level that can become debilitating.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what makes ADHD versus not having ADHD. So can Willow help you with your time management skills?
Absolutely. So I mean, Willow's three main purposes are to help people develop executive function. Or you can think of that as like setting goals and pursuing them. There's like working memory and those kinds of things. She won't address those parts, but she will help. Like that story about Hermione came up because the girl wanted to plan for a math test.
Yeah.
So Willow helped her come up with her plan.
Oh,
well, so she says, I've got a math test coming up, and Willow goes, "Oh, how are you feeling about it?" She's like, "I'm a bit nervous." And then so Willow goes, "Well, what's your plan?" And then they talk through and they put together a plan. So that's
so Willow could say, "Why don't you spend like 20 minutes today, tomorrow, and the next day on math to help you prepare for the test?"
Well, yes, except we actually try to get her to take a bit of a different tact, which is to have the child come up with the plan. So it's like, "Oh, your math test is coming up. How are you feeling about it?" So the first step is feeling. And then the second step is, once we've brought like awareness to the emotion, the next step is like, why do you feel that way? And so if they say I'm scared for it, why? Well, I don't feel prepared, or I don't want to fail. It's like, oh, interesting. What could you do to not feel like, what would you have to do to
Yeah.
not feel like, you're like, well, if I studied, then I wouldn't feel like that. It's like, oh, that's interesting. Like, what, how could you study? And then if the child comes up with the plan themselves, they're much more likely to pursue it. And then the last step is that Willow goes, well, great. How can I help you with that? And that flow was taught to us by a man named Seth Perler. You might know, he runs
Yes. Yes.
yeah. So Seth has had a lot of influence over the product, and he
And so
coaches kids
does,
to develop executive
yeah,
function.
he teaches executive functioning. Does Willow eventually get to the point with helping the child come up with, like, once you work through your feelings and why you're feeling stressed or anxious, do they get to the point in the conversation where they kind of, Willow will give suggestions?
If necessary. So, and it's kind of interesting how we build these things. Traditional software, you'd be like, if this, then that. And so it's always the same, right? But with
Yeah.
Willow, it's sort of more like raising a being. We give instructions and she manifests slightly differently in different conversations. And one of the things that we had to put a lot of energy into was to get her to not give suggestions right away. Because if you use ChatGPT, for example, it's like I'm scared for my math test, and it's like, great, here's how you're going to solve that, and it just like immediately gives you all the answers.
Yeah.
But that doesn't help anyone develop executive.
Right.
So
This is the power. Yeah,
Go
it's
ahead.
pretty cool. It's the power of AI, right? It is just really taking everything to a whole new level.
Yeah. But she will give suggestions. We've just put a lot of effort into her really trying to get the kid to create the plan themselves.
Yeah, which is developing the executive functioning, which is really hard. I mean, I'm a parent. It's really hard. We're busy, right? And you're trying to keep your kid like just on task, kind of getting things done to keep up in the world. And also, many parents, we were not raised in a therapeutic environment, right? So we don't even have the right skills. So this is just very interesting. It's a whole new world. It's a whole new world, and it's changing in 2025.
Absolutely.
Pretty
I don't know,
incredible.
we're probably close to the end of time, but there is, quickly circling back to your question earlier, I think all kids benefit from executive function, more secure relationships, and emotional regulation and awareness.
Yeah.
So it's most acute in families that have neurodivergent kids. And we've learned that those parents are like out looking for help. And so when you're building a technology like this, you typically you look for the customer that has the most dire need, and you build for them first. But we've had lots of kids that aren't neurodivergent.
Oh yeah, I think they're going to just love this technology. I mean, they were born for this time, right? This is what the future is. It's happening. It's pretty incredible. And Peter, just listening to your story too, and thank you for sharing that you had ADHD, but I also think you're also just demonstrating that it's been hard, right? Growing up with ADHD and the things that it brought with that, but it's also, you're kind of in this flow of your life too, where you're this incredible visionary, creative person, right? These are the things that can happen with somebody, right? Who has just a good sense of who they are and creative and all of these things that we always talk about. ADHD people tend to have more so of than a typical child or person. And so I feel like this is just a great episode that kind of encompasses all those pieces that we're always talking about. So thank you for sharing.
Oh, you're so welcome. And thank you for having me. And I think you're right. We talked a little bit before we started, but I struggled in university, particularly at first, before I knew I had ADHD, and then I started treating it. But once I got out and I didn't have to sit still and just study, there is an opportunity in the world to find roles that align with the strengths of someone with ADHD.
Yeah.
And my guess is among entrepreneurs, like ADHD is much like very overrepresented. So there's lots of opportunity for people that have ADHD.
Because it's a place to be creative, right? And just go with the flow. And
well, my parents, obviously there was lots of challenging bits, but one thing that I left my house with was like, you can do anything. Like both my mom and dad really, I came up with the understanding that I could accomplish anything. And so that, I don't know if that's helpful for those out there that are listening to this right now, but like the just deep acceptance of them. Yeah. And then belief that they can do anything is like really, really powerful.
It's the greatest gift you could give your child.
I think that's true.
Right there. That's gold.
I think that's true. And so Willow's purpose, she models that. One thing that we hear from kids, there's a boy who had ADHD. I've heard this from several of them actually. And they're like, it really feels like she's on my side. And it doesn't feel like there's people on my side a lot. And so it's really, Robin talks about Willow or Fawn, helping kids feel seen, valued, and known. And so parents can be doing that too. I mean, you don't need an AI robot to help with that.
Right. But as a parent, you might learn from Willow too, right?
For sure. And we've had parents tell us that.
Yeah. You learn the language, right, to use. It's amazing.
Thank you so much for having me, Kate.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.